everyone, it's Marlo from Through the Pages. Welcome back to my channel. I know it's been forever. I've been super busy with work and school, but that's no excuse, and I'm just gonna jump right in. First book I want to talk about is Snow Child by Ewan Ivey. This book was amazing. The writing had a lovely lyrical quality to it, and it provided so much imagery for me. It's set in 1920s Alaska about a couple in their early 50s trying to make it on a farm in the Alaskan wilderness. It really had this awesome Laura Ingalls, Little House in the Big Woods, Little House on the Prairie survival aspect to it, which I really enjoyed. There's also this wonderful Russian myth retelling in the storyline. The couple, who is unable to have children of their own, finds this little girl in the woods, and for a long time it's unclear as to whether she is this magical creature or whether she's just an actual human little girl who has managed to survive in the snowy wilderness of Alaska. This is the perfect winter read. The next book I picked up was Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore by Robin Sloan. It's about a character, Clay Janin, who gets a job at a bookstore, and he starts to realize that something fishy is going on, and he uncovers an ancient academic cult that is using the bookstore to break a code. So he starts to get involved with the code. He also has a love interest, and she works at Google. To be honest, I gave this book a 3.5. It wasn't super impressive. I think I expected a lot more out of it, seeing as I love books about bookstores, and it was a New York Times bestseller. The story didn't really deliver on everything that I think it promised to. One cool aspect was that I found out a lot more about how Google works and Google headquarters and the work environment through Clay's girlfriend, and that was really interesting to just learn more about the type of projects that Google works on, so that was cool. But overall, not anything miraculous. The next book I picked up was 1,000 Nights by E.K. Johnston. I really loved the cover art, and I was excited to get his version of the 1,000 Nights story, so I was pretty excited to dig into this. I was kind of disappointed. I gave it a 3 stars. To me, the story felt really slow. Johnston did this strange technique where he would gloss over the climax and the action sequences in only a couple pages, but there would be other sections where the protagonist was weaving, and he would do pages and pages of her thoughts and her, I don't know, it didn't really hook me in. It also had sort of a overwritten quality to it. It seemed like he was trying to wax poetic a lot, and I don't know, it just didn't sit well with me. The one thing I did really like about this book that may have been missing for me in The Wrath of the Dawn, which I loved, by the way, is this book I felt like gave a better, more authentic picture of Arabian shepherding culture and how the tribes were set up, the different gender roles. So that made it worth the read for me. I just wasn't super impressed with the story or the writing style. The next book I read was Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. I'm sure you've all heard a lot about this. I've heard mixed opinions on this book. I loved it. I gave it a 4 stars. I thought it was really refreshing and fun. It's written like the 7th book in a series. It does have a Harry Potter feel to it, but I don't think that made it cheap or unoriginal. I think that Rainbow Rowell was playing with a lot of fantasy wizarding school tropes and the idea of the chosen one and how civilization rests on his shoulders. I thought the main character, Simon Snow, was super funny, and his relationship with Baz was super cute and adorable and very relatable. Yeah, I definitely recommend picking this up. Rainbow Rowell has a great sense of humor, and the only thing that I would say that I didn't love so much about this book is there was quite a long setup, and the climax and denouement happened in the last sort of little section, and I felt like she didn't give you enough time to sit with what had happened, considering like how long the setup was. But yeah, still really enjoyed it, so pick this up. I recommend it. Next book I read was Alice, I Have Been by Melanie Benjamin. I gave this book 3.5 stars. It's split up into 3 different sections. It's about Alice Little, who is the girl that Alice in Wonderland was based on and inspired by. So it's split up into 3 sections, 3 different times in her life. Her early youth as a child, like 8 to 9 years old, her sort of late teens, 17, 18, and then her married life, I'm gonna say like 40s all the way to like 60s. The first section was really intriguing because you learn more about her relationship with Mr. Dodgson, which was Lewis Carroll's real name, and how they interacted. And it's kind of creepy. It kind of ruins the magic of Alice in Wonderland for you a little bit, because there is some evidence that he was a pedophile and that he had truly romantic feelings for little Alice, and he was way more than twice her age. He was about 25 and she was 9, so that kind of puts a damper on the story for me. The middle section was really great and has a great romance for Alice, and you're really rooting for her. The last section I couldn't have cared less about. Yeah, it was kind of depressing. I could barely get through it, honestly. If you really like Alice in Wonderland and that story, this would probably be worth reading. Melanie Benjamin did base this on a lot of historical facts and investigation that she found. So even though it is technically historical fiction, I think it would give you a lot of insight into the story and the background of Alice in Wonderland. So in addition to reading, I also listened to quite a few audiobooks in the last 2 months because I was commuting a lot for work and class. So here we go. The first one I'm going to talk about is called The Nature of the Beast by Louise Penny. The first book I'm going to talk about is called The Nature of the Beast by Louise Penny, performed by Robert Bathurst. This is a mystery set in Canada near Quebec. I didn't know it when I picked it up, but it's actually the 11th in the Inspector Gamache series. It is a mystery. It started when Inspector Gamache found a neighborhood boy murdered in the forest, and what happens from there, and they also find a mysterious giant, what they call super gun, but it's like a giant grenade launcher, almost a giant rocket launcher, giant weapon in the forest, and how the community responds to that, and why it's there, and how the murder is connected to the giant weapon hidden in the forest. I gave this a 2 stars. I wasn't really impressed by this. I felt like the writing style was really repetitive, and there were a lot of hypothetical questions that really started getting on my nerves, especially when I was stuck in a car hearing them repeated one after another at the end of every chapter. It also read like Clue, set in a small town but with far older retired characters. Everyone in this book most everyone is between the ages of like 50 and 70. So maybe it's for an older audience. It's probably also better suited to those who've grown up reading the novels and really have tender feelings for its cast of characters that it brings back every time. For me, it just didn't really do it, and I was wary of reading mysteries for a while. After this one, I was kind of over it. The next book I listened to was The Martian by Andy Weir, read by R.C. Bray. He was a fantastic reader. I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed the book. I'd already seen the movies, so I knew I wasn't really going to be surprised by the plot, but I still wanted to read it because of all of the good things I've heard. The main character, Mark Watney, is this fantastic, lighthearted, humorous, ingenious, resourceful main character, and a lot of times I don't really like reading castaway type books because you just get this main character who's lost and alone and in despair, and it just gets kind of old to me, but Mark Watney was such an uplifting character, even though he is this astronaut that's been left on Mars all alone. Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. R.C. Bray, I felt like, had done a lot of work to really encapture Mark Watney's voice, and his intonations were really funny. I definitely recommend this. It was also cheaper than a lot of audiobooks. It was $20. A lot of audiobooks I know are like between $40 and $45, so worth it. Just a great production. And one of those books that after you read it, or in this case hear it, you kind of just feel smarter. It was great. Definitely recommend it for anyone who is interested in science. I think this author did such a great job of bringing science into the book, but making it accessible to the layman without completely dumbing it down. There were so many things that I felt like I understood better after listening to this audiobook, even though I do know he took some liberties with the possibilities of what could really happen with weather on Mars. Despite that, yeah, really fantastic. I recommend it. A couple chapters did get a little technical for my taste, but I still really enjoyed it, and yes, 4 out of 5 stars. Go get this audiobook if you're looking for a new audiobook. And the last audiobook I listened to was Armada by Ernest Cline. I had never read Ready Player One. Picked this up just because I was looking for a new audiobook and I'd heard good things about this author. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. I will say you would probably enjoy it even more if you're into video gaming culture. I do not like video games. And I've never really been into them, so I think I did miss some of the gems in this book because of that. Despite that, there were a lot of great 80s references, which I am all about that. All about those 80s references, guys. And it also had some really fun science fiction references. If you liked Ender's Game, I think you would really like this. He played with different sci-fi tropes and different expectations you would have for a sci-fi story. Mentions a lot of sci-fi movies. The main character is Zach Lightman. He's kind of this rebellious video game playing kid, lives with his single mom, and one day a spaceship shows up at his school and asks for him by name, and you know, that's kind of the setup, and it turns out that, well, I'm not gonna spoil it for you guys. No spoilers, but definitely sort of like a hero's journey setup for this book. And Wil Wheaton was a fantastic reader. He did such a great job at embodying this surly, sassy teenager. Wil Wheaton does a wonderful job expressing the humorous moments, but also expressing different emotional moments and painful moments that the characters are going through. And he was a fantastic actor. I highly recommend this also. But if you don't like science fiction, then this probably isn't for you. The characters are very ironic and witty, so it's really enjoyable, really fun, a lot of adventure action going on. So yeah, pick this up. Sweet guys, well that's it for my January-February wrap up. Please tune in for more videos and subscribe and like this video. Thanks guys, bye!